In every story about House Targaryen, people remember the conquest first. They remember Aegon. They remember the Black Dragon. They remember kings bending their knees beneath the shadow of wings. But the true beginning of House Targaryen was not a victory. It was a flight. Before, far to the east, beyond the narrow sea, there stood an empire unlike anything the world had ever known. Valyria was not merely a city. It was a beast sleeping on the backs of volcanoes. Black stone formed its bones. Fire ran through its veins. Dragons were its wings. Its towers pierced the smoke-colored sky. Its mines sank deep into the earth, and its noble families did not call themselves kings. They were dragonlords. In Valyria, power needed no explanation. When a dragon passed over your roof, you understood who owned the world. And among those dragonlords, the Targaryens were not the oldest. They were not the richest. They were not the most feared. They were one family among many, powerful enough to be noticed, but not powerful enough to command the empire. They had dragons, yes, but in Valyria, dragons were not rare enough to make a house immortal. What made the Targaryens, her name was Daenys. Later generations would call her the Dreamer. But on the night the first vision came, she was only a frightened girl in a black stone chamber, with volcanic light bleeding through the window. She woke with her hands clawing at the sheets. Her father, Daenys Targaryen, came to her bedside. At first, she had seen the streets of Valyria split open like wounds. She had seen black stone melt as if it were wax. She had seen dragons burning in the sky, their wings tearing through clouds of ash. She had seen the sea boil. She had seen towers fold into fire. She had seen proud dragonlords vanish in their own halls, their names swallowed so completely that even their enemies would have no bodies left to hate. It was not one image. It came again and again, clearer each time, until the dream no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a memory from the future. Daenys did not believe her at once. No father wants to believe his child has looked into the mouth of the end, and no Valyrian dragonlord wants to believe that Valyria can die. The freehold had broken ancient geese. It had humbled cities, gods, armies, and kings. It had taught half the known world to lower its eyes. Daenys stood before the window and watched the red glow of the volcano. At last, Daenys summoned his household and announced the decision that would make his name a joke among the dragonlords. They would leave. They would take their wealth, their servants, their blood, and their dragons, and they would abandon the heart of Valyria for a lonely island far to the west. Dragonstone. In the halls of the freehold, men laughed. One lord asked, "You would trade Valyria for a rock in the sea because a girl dreamt of smoke." Another said, "Daenys Targaryen would rather be safe." So the Targaryens left. Their ships moved from the harbor beneath the gaze of people who believed they were watching a family fall from glory. Dragons circled above the masts. Servants wept. Chests of gold were carried aboard. Children clung to their mothers while the smoke of home drifted behind them. Daenys stood at the rail and watched Valyria shrink into the distance. It was her home. It was also the grave she had already seen. She did not weep. In her dreams it was burning already. Dragonstone was no Valyria. It had no endless avenues of black glass, no imperial warmth, no 1,000 dragonlords filling the sky. It was a jagged island of salt, mist, and storm, crowned by a fortress that seemed carved from frozen fire. The sea battered its cliffs, the wind gnawed at iron. To the proud families of the east, it was exile. To Daenys, it was. For 12 years, nothing happened. That was the cruelest part. Valyria still shone in the east. Its ships still crossed the seas. Its dragonlords still feasted, plotted, married, murdered, and laughed. Every peaceful year made Daenys seem more foolish. Every sunrise without disaster made Daenys seem more mad. But prophecy is not disproven by delay. Sometimes the gods give men just enough time to doubt the warning before the warning becomes the world. Then came the day the earth opened. The volcanoes of Valyria did not wake one by one. They rose together, like gods tearing free of the ground. Fire climbed into the sky. The land cracked. The sea turned white with heat. Towers glowed red from within before they collapsed. Mines became furnaces. Palaces became tombs. Dragons screamed above the clouds and fell burning into ash. The most powerful empire in the world was not conquered. No army breached its walls. No assassin cut its throat. Valyria simply woke and found itself standing inside the mouth of a volcano. On Dragonstone, they saw the eastern sky turn red for days. Not sunset red, not dawn red, a wound in the horizon red. No one celebrated. No one raised a cup to Daenys' wisdom. No one called Daenys blessed. They understood too well what survival had cost. Their cousins were ash. Their rivals were ash. The halls that had mocked them were ash. House Targaryen had not won, it had endured. And sometimes endurance is a colder thing than victory. Before the Doom, the Targaryens had been a lesser house among dragonlords. After it, they were something far more dangerous. The last. The great names of Valyria had vanished in a single day. Their dragons were gone, their sorceries were broken, their empire had become a curse whispered by sailors. But on a cold island in the west, a few dragons still slept. A few silver-haired exiles still remembered the language of fire. Daenys did not conquer a kingdom. She did not wear a crown. She did not ride into battle beneath a banner. Yet every Targaryen king who came after her owed his crown to the night she woke screaming. In the years that followed, Enar was not remembered as the greatest of the dragonlords. Perhaps that is fitting. Greatness, in Valyria, had meant pride, fire, and command. Enar's gift was something rarer. He knew when to believe fear. He knew when to let others call him weak. A century passed. The world changed its maps. Valyria became a memory, then a warning, then a ruin that men with sense avoided. On Dragonstone the Targaryens waited. They married. They buried their dead. They guarded their dragons. They watched the west. And then, at last, a boy was born into a house that had spent generations surviving. His name was Aegon. He would inherit no empire, only an island, a family, and the large Aegon would not look east. The east was ash. He would look west, across the narrow sea, towards 7 proud kingdoms that believed themselves ancient, separate, and eternal. He would study their rivers, their roads, their castles, and their wars. He would carve their lands into a table of painted wood, and where other men saw borders, Aegon Targaryen saw one realm waiting to be made. House Targaryen had escaped the doom, but next in before the throne, the painted table, the night 3 dragon riders decided that 7 kingdoms should become one.